Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
Born in Armenia, you do some kind of a combat sport, wrestling, judo, boxing, sambo. That's just the culture of it.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if they gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. Our guest today is the pride of Armenia, Arsen Aleksanyan. Back when he was 14, he was on the Cadet national team for Team Armenia, and then he moved to California without speaking a lick of English. He placed at the California State Tournament and then went on to wrestle at Michigan State. Go Sparty! And today he's a director of events for NuWay, a wrestling organization that's putting on youth tournaments all throughout the country. Check them out. Fan of the week, ladies and gentlemen, goes to, got it right here, my man Nick Pape. That's N Pape Alicious on Instagram. Thank you for the love, my friend. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you have a great Christmas. Folks, if you want to support the show, please go to WrestlingChangeMyLife.com to see past episodes, or you can visit our online store at store.WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. That's it. Let's get to the interview with Arsen Aleksanyan. Arsen, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Good to be here.
Honor to have you. We're going to talk about a lot of topics today, but let's go chronological to start. Take me back to Armenia. I heard that as a young boy, all the men around you had cauliflower ears, and that's kind of how you got started. You know, what was it like growing up in Armenia for you?
Yeah, my dad wrestled. All his friends wrestled. Basically, you're born in Armenia, you do some kind of a combat sport, wrestling, judo, boxing, sambo. That's just the culture of it. So I didn't know any different. You know, that's all I wanted to do. That's all the kids on the streets wanted to do.
How big is Stefan Sarkisian in the Armenian cultures?
Oh, he's as big as you get. There's a big tournament after him in Armenia, and I took about 10 years ago. I took some of the guys on the U.S. national team over there for a tournament, and that was a fun experience, getting to translate for them, helping them coach on the mat. So it was a fun experience. People just love wrestling, and me as an Armenian taking a group of Americans there, we were treated really well. They treated, especially wrestlers, American wrestlers, they won more tourism, so they treated us really well. We had a royal treatment there.
Well, I know who I'm going to Armenia with.
There you go, anytime.
Do they have so you had a big background in Greco wrestling, correct?
Yep. Yeah, so in Armenia, you pick one style of wrestling. So the wrestling, it's not done in high schools, it's not done in colleges, it's done through clubs. So you either go freestyle or you go Greco. And at that time, being a club coach, it's a really good job. You're basically getting paid by the government. So the coaches that you start with, they're the same coaches that coach you all the way to Olympics if you make it to that level. So the club I went to for Greco, there was 5 world champions and 2 Olympic medalists in a small club in Armenia. So that same coach that coached the world champions coaches kids for class in the mornings or in the afternoons, and that's just how kind of the cycle is. You stay in the same club and you grow with the same coach. So it's not, you don't go to school and have a dad that's never wrestled before but loves the sport, wants to help out, jumps in there and helps out and coaches a team. You start with an amazing coaching right away.
And so just for I want to dive into this specifically, but just as a level set, how big is Armenia? Like, is it the size of Illinois or smaller than that?
We have our population is 3 million people.
So tiny
Tiny
country.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
very small.
country of 3 million. There's wrestling clubs throughout the country, and these are government-sponsored clubs, you said?
Yep, government-sponsored clubs. So government pays. And same thing with any of the republics in, Russia,
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan, yeah, any of the republics over there, they do the same thing. So it's a government-sponsored club. The government pays for the facility, government pays the coaches. It doesn't cost the students any money to go practice there. So that same system just carries on.
And so what is, as a young wrestler, and I've had Nazar Kolchinsky on, I've had some other folks who grew up in the republics and then migrated over in high school, exactly like you did. But I'm curious, in Armenia, tell me about the from the 8-year-old group, like 8-year-old through high school. How often are you competing? How often are you training? Take us inside that school.
We didn't have a lot of tournaments, especially for age group, kind of like what we're doing with NuWay. We weren't fortunate enough to have as many tournaments. So you wrestle maybe 3 tournaments a year. So I think it's changed now, but at that time you just don't have a lot of competition wrestling there. And the practices were about 2 hours, and we had 3 workouts a week. So it wasn't so intense. They did a lot of acrobatic stuff. We did a lot of flips, kind of stuff. We just drilled a lot. We'd drill one move for whole practice over and over again. There's a lot of concentrating on technique. You just pick up one technique a day, really get at that, and then next day another move. Next day another move. But a lot on technique over and over again.
It's interesting because sometimes you hear that the wrestlers in Dagestan or Ossetia, they don't drill that much. It's more play wrestling. So is that more so? Maybe they're older when they're doing that, but you guys.
I think maybe when they're older, yeah, you get in your groove and you take shots. It's kind of like not full on wrestling, but almost not drill match, because you go with the feel. But after you develop a lot of technique.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the guys making the world team, the way they train. When they need to work on specific technique, they're drilling a lot of it. But that's part of their warm up, is they'll start warming up like that. Just doing a little technique, drill match, kind of just keep get a feel for it. If something works for you, then that's what you're going to concentrate on. Not this is the way it's doing it. If the move works for you, then keep doing it.
But but only 3 days a week though on the mat as a kid. Were you in the room doing other things, or you only came 3 days a week?
No, I just came 3 days a week, and then the other days we'd be outside with my dad and a bunch of my friends, and we'd see a kid about my size, like, hey, you guys should wrestle. And we would just wrestle, and it was normal. It's just normal for boys to just wrestle each other outside. It's like playing baseball in America.
And then when do you advance to the level of working out twice a day, 5 times a week?
It depends on your level. I don't know if the age group, once you start making the cadet team, junior team, just depends on how well you're growing. And one thing they would do too is they get the junior guys wrestle a lot with the open guys. I remember when you're an upcoming prospect, they would just keep moving you up quickly to wrestle with those guys.
Because you were on the cadet world team in '95, right?
In '95, yep. Yeah, so it was a fun experience. I traveled from here to Budapest by myself and met the Armenian team there. And it was a fun experience.
Now, when you're on the senior team, do they all live at a central place and train, or do they still live in their own clubs?
They live at home, but they're usually the club you go to is the one that's closest to your house. So it's there's like 4 or 5 clubs. I think it's the Dinamo is the one that's military based. There's one called the Reserve, and there's a few other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. You just go to one of those clubs, and they all have great coaches.
Wow.
Grew up in that system.
The difference in coaching in the former Soviet Union republics versus the United States is that it seems like coaching is a highly respected skill there, and it's a trade, and it's not just a random volunteer.
Right. So in America, you would take, let's say, Division two coach or Division one coach or NAIA coach. So those guys are really respected, right? The head coaches, they're very established in their as far as their wrestling career on their own and what they've accomplished prior to getting there. So that's pretty much what every coach is like over there. We don't have just a small club that opened up his garage and is doing this, which it's great. We have to do that in America because we have so many high school teams. We just don't have enough coaches, and we need more coaches. But over there, it's just a completely different system. You want to be, if you have a coaching job, you have a great career.
Wow. So could you go over there now and open your own club and fund it by people paying, or would they shut that down?
No, I can't do that because I don't have a couple world medals.
Yeah,
that's the kind of level guys that are doing that.
Just so, high level, real masters of the sport.
Yep, exactly. And they all get their degree. So they're all college educated. They get their degree in, masters in sports or some kind of nutrition, so they're all very versed on being a coach.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you, what is the view of Greco versus freestyle there? Is it the same level of, because here in the United States, it's obviously a freestyle country.
Right.
Is there a difference in Armenia, or are they both the same?
No, they're both the same. We've had Olympic medalists, world champions in both styles. So
got it.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. They're both equally as respected.
Okay. And so let's start from, how'd you get to the United States? What's your story here?
My parents we moved right around when Russia broke up, the republic separated, and just a better opportunity for my family. Parents, my mom and my dad were really unselfish people and moved us to a better country so we can have better opportunities.
And could you speak English when you first came?
Nope, I did not. I went to junior high without speaking any English. And we only had one Armenian kid in my class. Not in my class, in my school. So yeah, I didn't make a lot of friends at the beginning.
How'd you process that though? And how'd you find your way through?
You just, you get by and you put in situations, you figure things out and you learn quick. My learning curve was really fast because I went to high school there, or I went to junior high there. I just had to learn, and when you go to wrestling practice afterwards, you have to learn. I didn't have a lot of choice. So I didn't really read to write and read in English till I was in high school. Just the area we lived in, LA district, the school system, they couldn't afford to have a specific teacher teach me that. Our classes were full.
Yeah. How was your transition to folk style? Was it surprising to you?
It was difficult. Yeah, it was really difficult. My first one of the first times I've ever saw folk style wrestling, my dad lived in LA. He drove me to San Diego, and I've never seen collegiate wrestling. I don't understand what it is. So here's two foreign people in a small gym. We hardly speak English, so we obviously stuck out. My first match, I got a takedown somehow. I was out of bounds. The guy comes back in the middle, gets in the referee's position, and he stands up on me. So it's like, this is a gift from God. I locked my hands, back arched him, and it was a collegiate tournament. So everybody starts yelling at me. They're saying things. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know why they're mad. I'm like, that was a great throw. And as it goes on, and they can't explain to me things. Anyways, some of the people that were in that gym, I still see them. I still talk to them. They talk about the story. It's just really funny experience. They try to gut wrench a guy, and I'm like, man, Americans really suck at this wrestling thing. Just let me throw them over my head. So it was a fun experience to go through it with my dad. But I had a really good high school coach, John Azevedo, and kind of changed my life in a lot of ways for the better. And yeah, that's how I got my collegiate wrestling started.
Yeah, John Azevedo. I had oh my God, the name's escaping right now. Joe Gonzalez on recently, and he went to Cal State Bakersfield with Azevedo, I believe, right? But at the same time,
they were teammates.
Division II animals just coming in and wrecking the D1 guys like it was nothing back in the day, man. Yeah. Tell me about John Azevedo, though. I don't know anything about him other than that he was a hell of a wrestler. So how did he influence your life?
John's a really devoted Christian Christian man, so it's one of the biggest things that he gave me. But just overall, being part of an immigrant family, I had tore my ACL my sophomore year in high school, and we didn't have insurance. The medical wouldn't pay for it, and basically did a fundraising thing and had my knee fixed before my senior year. And it's just one of the million examples I can give that he's helped me with just throughout my career there.
Wow.
My parents I have great parents, but there's just certain things in a new country they're not able to do or explain to me, and he just kind of took that role on and helped me a lot. Not just me, but all of my teammates. Every person. We wouldn't have a teammate that's walked away from being under John for a year and could say anything negative. Just really cared, really hardworking guy, just super unselfish with everything he did.
So he literally helped fundraise to get your knee repaired. That's incredible.
Yep. Yeah, I talked to the doctor, the same doctor that actually did a surgery on him and Joe Gonzalez. I gave him a discount, and he did some. I wrestled 2 years with torn ACL my sophomore, my junior year, so it just took away a lot. Finally, my senior year, we just couldn't afford that kind of money to do it. So,
what? So you just said I'm going with it. I mean, did you ever get used to the pain, or was it always
you
just
definitely get used to it. You drill a little different. You wrestle different. And obviously, you couldn't. It's not the same training. You couldn't run. You couldn't push yourself in certain ways, but you get used to it.
My God, you're an animal, dude. That's might be the toughest thing I've heard in a while. And so, did you just happen to move and live next to Calvary Chapel, or did you go there on purpose?
No, there's a club called SoCal Kids, and we moved to that area, and it's in Orange County. So moved there. We were driving from LA to SoCal Kids, about a 45-minute drive, and it just wasn't working out. So moved to that area. And then my freshman year, I went to Brethren Christian High School. And after that, I transferred to Calvary Chapel.
Man, I mean, talk about the tradition of that program. I mean, obviously multiple time state champions, but what was the status of the program when you were going through it?
My 3 years there, we won a state title, 95, 96, 96, 97, 98. Yeah, I think the year 97 year, we were ranked number 1 in the country for a night. So it was an awesome program. Yeah, it was awesome. We flew to Ironman, wrestled Welsh Jesuit in a duel, and Welsh Jesuit was ranked number 1 in the country. So we beat him in the duel, and then the next day at Ironman we took 5th. St. Ed's won, then he killed everybody by 30-40 points. But some of the guys on those teams were they're wrestling legends now.
So like Sonny Marchetti, Joe Heskett, was he on that team?
Yep, Joe Heskett was on that team. The guy that wrestled in Indiana, Victor is a 3-time All-American for Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those Jesuit teams, I don't know a lot about them. I'm from Chicago, or from Illinois, but I live in Chicago now. But obviously, I mean, they talk about those Welsh Jesuit teams as being like the bad boys of wrestling, and they were mean. And like Sonny Marchetti is one name. Everyone says that guy was a man-child, but I mean, there was a ton of guys on that team that were just lights out.
Yeah, Sonny Marchetti. I went to Lassen Junior College for a semester. So Sonny was my teammate. I worked out with him a lot. He's a fantastic technician. He was mean, aggressive competitor, but he's a great technician too. He's a really good technician. They had some good coaches. I wrestled Joe Heskett in semifinals or quarterfinals of Ironman. I don't remember when, but he cradled me standing up. So it's kind of a yeah. I guess he cradled everybody, right? So yeah.
Was TJ Williams at Lassen or Tony Davis at Lassen?
They just graduated when I was there.
Okay.
Just graduated, yeah. And then Brock Lesnar was there the semester too, right when I got there.
How did you end up wrestling for Coach Keesall then, if you went to Lassen?
I was there for a semester, and then I moved back to closer to my parents. I didn't wrestle. I wrestled a couple open tournaments for Lassen, and then I moved to Morrow Park, closer to being home.
Got it. Okay. And so, and I've probably said this about 20 times on the show, but in California, they have a really unique thing where all the JUCOs are in their own league. they wrestle in the fall. They don't compete at the nationals. So you won what's called a state title there.
Yep.
And then Michigan State. Yeah, I did not see that coming when I was doing my research. Where did the dream to wrestle in the Big Ten start for you?
I don't know. Even with even at that time, it was still kind of, I didn't understand Big Ten Conference or Big 12 or, and, just still getting to know the American culture, what that really means. In junior college, it just got, after the state tournament, I guess, started getting recruited pretty heavily. And I went to, Joe Heskett, I was friends with him. I went to Iowa State, went to Oregon State, Iowa State, Fresno, Fullerton, and Michigan State was my last trip. I kind of was set on going to Iowa State. I thought Joe Heskett was going to move up to 74s, or and then there was Sanderson, me, and then Joe Heskett, and then Sanderson. So I kind of thought this is a really cool. It's kind of a dream come true to be there. And then I ended up my last trip that Michigan State already bought my tickets. So I flew out there and met Dave Dean, met a guy named Nick Fichetti. I've known him before, but anyways, just spent some time with him. Gray Maynard he was out of Nevada at first, and I spent a lot of time with him at different camps. So just being around those guys, it just felt right, and Dave, with the whole recruiting process with him, it just felt comfortable and everything felt right. So
plus it helps that Minko was the Greco coach in 92 and you got Greco roots.
Exactly.
So I've heard you say that Dave Dean, Asaveto and Dave Dean are, life-changing people for you. I'm sure there's a long list, but
yeah, Paul Kisa definitely belongs in that list, of course.
Absolutely. So I've actually never spoke with Dave Dean. I've heard, I've had Gabe on twice. I've heard Brian Piccolo talk about him, almost like a godlike figure. What is it about this guy that is so influential, and what brought you there? If you can put it in words.
It's really hard to describe. The reason I went there, it just felt right, I guess. I can't put those in words, but to describe Dave with his personality, I'd say the biggest thing, he's just so consistent in his life. He just hasn't changed. Just the same person that recruited me, and he just constantly consistent. Everything he does is just the same way. What it's going to be. He's, in business world, he's a risk taker. He's aggressive doing that stuff. But as far as relationship with people, it's extremely consistent. You just know how Coach Dean's going to be. You know how it is, and he just does a different. He breaks down every problem you'll have in front of you. He can break it down, make it look like, oh, that's the easiest thing to go and accomplish. So he could relate everything you do. He relates it back to a wrestling match or a wrestling practice, or maybe one time you weren't on a shot, you barely finished. He can relate anything to that and make it where, yeah, that makes sense. I can go do this. It's really hard to describe him. It's just his biggest thing is he's always consistent. It's like talking about him, doing business with him. People thought, oh, well, we might have to have a country. We might have to do this. It's like, I don't know, just how consistent he is. It's what makes him stand apart from people.
How often did you talk about Brian Piccolo while you were there?
We talked about him a lot. There was a poster of him in the assistant coach's office. So, yeah,
I love that story. One of my favorite stories. I get a lot of people messaging me, not a lot, maybe a couple a week, but wrestlers who say, hey, I never placed in high school. I want to get on to the next level, and I'm not being recruited. And I just send them to the Brian Piccolo episode. I mean, it's a rarity, but it can happen. Whatever he did was incredible. And the 1 year at Nationals, he lost in the first round and won like 6 or 7 to play. So pretty incredible guy. And so that's kind of, go ahead.
So if you had a teammate like that at Michigan State, he ended up not being All-American, but he was a match away twice. His name is John Wechter, who's a 97-pounder, and he went on to win the U.S. Nationals in Greco, but he never qualified to a state tournament in Michigan. And not only that, while he was doing all that stuff, he's a doctor. He became a doctor in Michigan State. So, yeah, pretty impressive resume.
Absolutely. Now, Now you've so you had a long coaching career that we're gonna skip over for the moment, but you went back and you coached at Calvary Chapel for 5-6 years as the head coach. You coached at Cal Baptist, coached at NAI a bit, but now you're working with a company called NuWay. What is NuWay, and how did you end up there?
So Dave Dean started a NuWay organization while I was in college. So I think my last year there, maybe my junior year, they were already doing small tournaments. We did one I think I worked at the first tournament. It was at Fowlerville High School. I can't remember the specific details, but I remember carrying the mats up, worked at the first tournament, and basically Dave started the company, and it's just grown to be one of the biggest youth organizations in the country.
So why would he start that versus just doing a USA Wrestling tournament and using USA Wrestling?
It's a question that'd be a good question for him. I know there was a few little issues, but just basically create more opportunities in state of Michigan for kids to wrestle. And that's what it started first. And also he had an idea too, where at the beginning he was donating a lot of money to and he still does. He donated it was one of the things to support college programs too. That was one of the reasons the company initially started. But the main thing was to give more opportunities, more wrestling tournaments, and USA Wrestling was doing all freestyle at that time. So we started wrestling collegiate.
And from what I hear, it's that NuWay tournaments. So right now, if someone wanted to go to a NuWay tournament, there are tournaments all over the country, and it's more about the experience. And you guys hold them in like cool resorts. Is that fair to say?
Right, we do. So it's all destination tournaments. We have one coming up. We just did a big tournament in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I'd never been there before. It's an awesome town. So families can go there and spend a lot of time. The mom and the sister, if they don't want to be in the wrestling tournament, they can be out walking around and shopping, enjoying themselves, and they can look on Track Wrestling. He's going to be up in about 15 minutes, give or take. So they can go watch the match, and then they're out walking around instead of being at a gym all day, waiting to know, we don't have Track Wrestling. We don't know what's going to happen. So the way the events itself are organized and the locations of it makes it very attractive for families to go to it. And we have the other thing that helps to grow our company and the company we're partnering up with. We do a dual system, and then we also do an individual tournament. So in an average weekend, we have kids wrestling 15, 16 matches. So they get 6-7 matches in duels, and then they'll get another 7-8 in an individual. So that's what people like that. They don't have to go to a tournament every weekend and get 3 matches sitting in the bleachers all day, not knowing when they're up. They know exactly that in the dual format that we guarantee 5 matches or whatever it is. So kids get a lot of mat time, and the best way to improve in wrestling is by wrestling more matches.
Well, like you said earlier, when you were in Armenia, you were doing 3 tournaments a year. I hear of kids now doing 100 tournaments a year. So 3 is too less or too few. 100 is probably too much. So with your strategy, you could do 1 tournament a month, but get in your 15 matches and then train the rest of the month if you wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm not a big advocate of having kids at that age group cut weight or anything like that. But the way those tournaments are, it's fun for kids to go out there and wrestle. Right now, depending on what state you live in, you can't go to practice. Your high schools are shut down, junior highs are shut down. You can't have practice, so kids work out with their dad and go to tournaments. So that is part of their training. And it really.
So what's the next NuWay tournament that's coming up?
We are going to be in Wisconsin on the 5th. It's called the Yeti. It's in Dells, Wisconsin. So it's an awesome area with a lot of lakes, big tourism attraction there also. And we have a Christmas party December 18. It's going to be there also.
Beautiful.
So tournament in Michigan. We had to move it to Wisconsin.
Might have to shoot up there. I'm in Chicago. That's not too far. And plus,
please, come down and join us.
Well, and I think, people might be wondering why we're talking about NuWay versus deep diving your career is we've assimilated somewhat of a loose partnership here, and we have some mutual friends, and so I wanted to get you guys on just to talk about what NuWay is. And for folks who are listening, it's spelled NuWay, and as we've talked about, it's a youth wrestling organization separate from USA Wrestling, completely separate, that has their own approach. And hey, if the Dean family's behind it, I'm all about it, right? That's kind of how I think about these things.
Right.
So what's your role with the company?
I guess my just director of tournaments. So with our tournaments, I do a lot of the scheduling, organizing, helping people, and just helping the tournaments go smoother. But when in wrestling tournament business, you do whatever it takes to make the tournament run smoother. One thing, I'm taping the mats. Next meeting, if I'm using the restroom, there's trash on the floor, I'm picking it up. Whatever it takes to make the tournament go smoother.
I hear you. You're doing all things, and it's something where if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, would you guys be wrestling every weekend somewhere?
Yes. Well, the schedule is, so it looks like we're going to have about 51 events on our schedule for this coming up year.
51?
51. Yep. And we're partnering. I should say partnering up. We're merging in with a company called RMN, Rocky Mountain Nationals, and basically both companies coming together. We're going to go under national headquarters. That's what it's going to be, HQ. And we're going to be helping each other market each other's tournaments. We're going to be helping with 51 events for us to travel, to have the same stuff on the road all the time. It becomes pretty impossible. So we're going to be kind of joining forces, helping each other and grow the tournaments. One interesting thing with both of our companies, during the epidemic, we were the NuWay, we did a tournament, and the following weekend RMN did a tournament, and we're the president of both companies. They're the ones who make the decisions. We don't have a board where we'd have to look at it and wait to see what happens, how much do the states open up. So they're super aggressive with opening wrestling. During the pandemic, he wanted to get the tournament started. So we went to, and there's a lot of homework that's gone behind the scene when we go to a new city to open a tournament. You go through the city hall, go through their health department, their government office. So a lot that has to be done, and then they give you a bunch of lists. They give you all the rules that you have to follow, and we've done a good job. I'd say we've done a good job, a lot of confidence to keep all those events running. And we followed every rule that they gave us. Some of the rules that we had to follow made some of our customers, made some of the parents, coaches pretty upset. But the most important thing during this pandemic we're going through, all the kids got to wrestle. They go to our tournament doesn't get canceled. Every arena we've been to, we've been welcome to go back. So it's great to be able to say we're helping wrestling grow even during an epidemic in America.
Absolutely.
I'm really proud of our company for being able to do that.
And you guys have just been pushing on through despite all the red tape.
Yep, we've been through some really tough tournaments. We did a new tournament in New Jersey, Atlantic City, and we had 3 different government officials coming in every day dressed up in suits, making us change things. And we went through, the tournament was outside, a rainstorm hit, we had to tear down everything, put it back together. So we've been through a lot this summer, but consistency of just, we're going to go through it, we're going to follow all the rules they give us, and we're going to provide wrestling tournaments for the people.
Hey, and that's doing the Lord's work right there. I know a lot of parents appreciate it, and I just think it's a cool approach to youth wrestling. Now, is it fair to say that a lot of the wrestlers in the NuWay events, are they novice wrestlers, or is that not accurate?
No, we have kids from 7 under to high school kids.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously we get less high school kids during the wrestling season, but youth all the way to high school.
Now, when are we doing a NuWay tournament in Armenia? Let's get something going there.
I would love to. Absolutely would love to. Yeah, hopefully with this whole pandemic frees up. There's a bunch of great states that we like to go. I live in California. Like to do some NuWay events here in California, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen soon.
I got to tell you, Chicago is a wrestling hotbed. Big USAW state, but I think I know a lot of people here. We'd love to get you guys in, but Illinois is super locked down as well. I was going to say, you guys should get out to like Texas or something. They're doing everything out there, right?
Yeah, they are. They are. Tennessee, so it's the same way. They opened it up. We should like to get into Texas. We had a guy Metzger came into our tournament in Shawnee, Oklahoma, which is about 3 hours from where he lives in Texas, and he's a big wrestling fan. So he talked about, we're gonna probably jump in board with him and do a tournament there.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
Here.
So is the website just NuWay.com? NuWay Wrestle?
It's NuWay.com, and we're transferring into national headquarters soon. So
is that going to be the new name of the company, National Headquarters?
National Headquarters, right? It'll be kind of a joint companies with RMN. So,
got it. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Well,
thank you. One more thing. I know this is a lot of wrestling people watching this, but we are launching our first Jiu-jitsu tournament with NuWay. So we are adding Jiu-jitsu to NuWay, and our first one will be with Christmas party in Dells, Wisconsin. So the same format that we're doing for youth wrestling, making sure kids get a lot of matches, making it a fun, friendly environment for the families. We'll be doing the same thing for Jiu-jitsu.
That is so smart. I don't know why it's taken someone so long to do that, because the crossover you would think the crossover is really high, right? Because jiu-jitsu is more of a sport for adults. I would think every time I go to a jiu-jitsu gym, it's just adults and they're rolling, but a lot of them wrestled, right? So why not get their kids involved in that? And are you guys going to be doing jiu-jitsu tournaments one day and like wrestling the next, so you can do both days?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of kids that are doing wrestling, they're doing jiu-jitsu, and parents, they want to make them into MMA fighters too, and so we're gonna have it where kids can do both styles of it. And a lot of parents go to a lot of ex-wrestlers go to their local jiu-jitsu gym to work out with them. Wrestling, it's so hard after you're 30.
Yeah.
Just drilling is hard. They pick you up, throw you on the ground. Where jiu-jitsu is more, you're more relaxed. There's a different strategy to it. You're really technical, very sneaky with the stuff you do. So a lot of the older guys, the dads that have their kids at our tournaments, they're also participating in jiu-jitsu, so they could wrestle, they can compete in our tournaments, and so I'm excited. And we just hired a guy that's going to be in charge of our jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. His name is Mike Williams. He's going to do great for us. He's out of California.
That makes sense that the dads can compete too, because totally off topic, but my brother used to race dirt bikes, and at the dirt bike races, they have classes for adults and for kids. And so a lot of father-sons would be racing at the same kind of thing, So if you're doing jiu-jitsu, I don't know if it's going to be adult tournaments too, or just kids, but
it's going to be both adults and kids tournaments for jiu-jitsu. So.
Love it. A lot of exciting stuff happening. Anything else going on with the companies that you wanted to share that's on the mind that we can get out to the listeners here?
No, I think the big thing, people are coming to our tournaments, and we had few events. Things are going great. We're running the events, and people like, well, last year when we did this event, it wasn't like this. It wasn't 4 days long. Last year it was so much easier. Like for the parents to know and the coaches to know, yes, it was a lot easier last year without COVID. We're going through COVID.
Duh.
Not going to be, and I know it's as obvious as duh, but we're implementing things that we don't want to. We don't necessarily believe that you have to have a face mask here. It should be your choice, but we have to force people to do it. We absolutely have to force people to. So all the extra rules that they see, it's not because we want to be difficult and implement it on them. Is we going to force it, and we're going to stick to it. We're going to be really strict so we can keep wrestling alive, so we can keep having tournaments and not getting shut down.
Yeah, no one in their right mind wants to enforce these things. It's not fun for you guys to do it. You just want to wrestle.
Exactly. We have a tournament. We only let one athlete, 3 people enter the tournament with them. And then people are like, why? That's, last year we had a whole family. Yes, I know last year we didn't have COVID. So just so many little things that we have to do, that's not convenient for people. And I understand why people are upset about it, but it's not up to us. It's not something we want to implement to be difficult for our customers, our wrestlers, our parents. It's just we have to do those things to keep wrestling alive.
Love it. Hey, last thing I'll ask you about Arson is, I'm sure you're close with Gabe Dean, right? Just knowing the family.
Yep.
What'd you
Yep.
think about the match with David Taylor last week? He was right on him.
I absolutely loved it. I got to watch it with Dave. There's Gabe's mom, dad, and his sister, and my girlfriend in the hotel room watching the match. It was an awesome match. I think the strategy that Gabe had the first round, the way he adjusted, it's not staying out of bounds, and the way David Taylor's not an easy guy to take down, especially with your head in the inside single leg. That was a great match. I'm excited to see what happens in his second match with him.
Are they wrestling again, or they might?
I hope so. I think I haven't talked to Gabe since the match, but I'm gonna guess after that kind of performance, he's not far from being one of the best. Obviously he's one of the best guys in the world. David Taylor didn't have a close match like that in World Championships, so that was
pretty amazing. And Gabe only has really been back at this in that competitive mindset since the fall. Maybe he was thinking about wrestling in the summer. I don't know, but he hasn't been on that level training. I mean, he's been wrestling as a coach, but it's just a different thing, and he's right there.
Yeah, with the new rules, push out and all that stuff, the freestyle rules change every year. So he's only had 5-6 matches with open nationals and this. So I can't imagine the changes he'll make, the adjustments he'll make, what he's going to be like come to the trials. So.
And he's committed to Tokyo, from what I hear.
Yeah, he's pretty strong. I haven't wrestled with him since he was 5, so I don't want to wrestle him now.
Well, like you said, man, that first period, there wasn't a lot of action, but it looked like David was maybe controlling the pace. But then the second period, within a minute, he was in on the legs twice. And that second time, he was close to scoring, real close.
Yeah, it was a little thing, reach back, grab that wrist, or a little roll through. He wins the match,
Yeah.
A few seconds away. But yeah, the adjustments he made from first period to second was really impressive.
And Max looked good too. I mean, just the Deans in general look like insanely strong, just thick dudes. They both look jacked in that dual meet last week.
Yeah, they do. They got a good weightlifting coach too. The guy's name is Dan Flenick. He actually works with us too now. He helps them a lot with their weight training. But their dad too, really good genes. Their dad in college, I remember he would wrestle with us a lot and just beat everybody up. Real strong. A super nice guy, but sometimes you think, does he like me? Does he want to kill me? Why is he wrestling so hard?
I wonder how much Jay Robinson influenced Dave Dean, because they were only together 1 year.
Yeah, a lot. Dave talks about Jay Robinson a lot. He talks about Jim Zaleski a lot too. My old boss's brother, Lenny was my boss at Cal Baptist, and Jim Zaleski, his brother. Dave talks a lot about both those guys, Jay Robinson and Jim Zaleski, what they've done for him. And
did Jim coach at Minnesota?
Jim coached at Minnesota.
I didn't know that. Oh, so he left Iowa, then came back.
Yep. He went to Iowa, and that's really during those years when Minnesota took a big jump.
Yeah.
Going from a decent program to one of the best programs in the country.
And honestly, people say in the 80s that Jay Robinson was a big technique guy, but people say that Zaleski, once he was done wrestling, like he was just a master technician in the Iowa room, and he was the one teaching a lot of the technique.
Yeah, both brothers are amazing technician, and he's competitive too. Lenny never really talks about his wrestling career, like I've done this or done that, but I hear a lot from Dave talking about Jim. I was just so fiercely competitive, just so mean. Watch some of the matches, you could see it.
That's good pedigree, man. So you're right under that tree, and you've worked. Look at the guys you've worked with, and that's what's so great about wrestling. You've got to rub elbows with Asaveto, the Dean family. Coach
Kisa.
Minkle, Kisa. I mean, it's just incredible the people you've been in contact with because of wrestling.
Yeah, I've been very blessed with the type of coaches I had. I think from high school all the way to college, all my coaches were the level of being an Olympic coaches. Some of them were, there's a John Azevedo, world, his 4th in worlds, Olympian, 3-time NCAA finalist, my high school coach. So been really blessed to be in that position.
Well, I'm blessed to have this conversation with you and for you to take the time. I know you're someone who's normally on the road a lot, but hopefully you're able to spend some time with the family. And, I'm just excited to, whenever you guys have events, let me know. I'll share the word with the folks listening here. And I'm a big believer in the Dean family, man. So however I can help you, please let me know.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate what you've done for wrestling too with this podcast. I know you had some really great guests on it, and really enjoyed listening to you. So thank you. And I had no idea that we had Cal Baptist in common. So
yeah,
great.
that's a short chapter of my life, but yeah, it was the first time I had In-N-Out, and man, to this day I could eat. When I go to In-N-Out, I get a triple, but there were times in college where I would get a triple and a double and put down 5 patties.
Yeah.
In-N-Out to this day is
Really
the best
good.
fast food in the world. It's so good.
Well, if you get a chance, go visit Cal Baptist now. It has completely changed from what he remembers. Completely changed from the time I got there. So let a shout out to Cal Baptist Wrestling.
Absolutely. And shout out to a gentleman, Enoch Francois. Do you know him?
Right. Yep, of course.
When I was there, he was a senior, and man, I never met someone who's just so good, but so positive, like just a positive guy. I mean, I love Enoch. So if you're listening out there, my friend, I think he's in Florida now.
Yeah.
Mad respect to Enoch Francois.
Great.
You see a picture of that guy, you're gonna feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, he's carved out. He's carved out. He's got
You won't look at yourself the same after that for at least a week.
You won't go In-N-Out afterwards.
No, God no. Well, no, man, it's been a pleasure, Arsen. I know we'll talk again, my friend. You have a great day, brother.
Thank you, Ryan. Likewise. Thanks
Take
again.
care. And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text Wrestle to 555-888. That's Wrestle to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. Take care, y'all.